Hello and good evening. Welcome back to Arsenal Analysed. We've got a very tasty show in store for you this evening. First 3 games have been played. The transfer window has now closed, and I'm joined by 2 guests this evening to help me with our predictions on where teams will finish in this Premier League season. And we've got a few questions to throw in there as well around a couple of players. But first of all, joining me to help dissect where we think teams might finish this season is Neil. How are we doing this evening, my friend?
Good as usual, bro. Thank you for, allowing me to grace the presence of you 2 individuals. So we have Sir Albert on screen here. So thank you again, Jake. Appreciate it.
No, not a problem. Always a pleasure to have you on. And Albert, who has been on the channel before, but it has been quite a while. How are you doing this evening?
Yeah, not bad, man. It has been a while, man. It's been a while since I've seen either of you, but yeah, it's nice to come on, man. Obviously, you put the call out, so I'm here, man. I haven't got no dates lined up or any private functions to attend. So yeah, I thought I'd come on, man.
Good. No, I'm glad you could join us for this evening and share your opinions. I'm sure we've all probably got different things to say on all of the talking points, whether it's who you think will be champions, who you think is going to finish in the top 6, and also where we're probably going to start is those relegation contenders. So just for the sake of some material on screen, if everyone can squint their eyes a little bit and have a look at the current league table. This is how things stand at the moment. And like I say, we are going to start with the bottom end of the table and have a quick chat on who we feel might be in contention for those bottom 3 places. I'm sure those teams don't want to be involved in that conversation, but I'm sure there's probably 5 or 6 teams that will be in that dogfight throughout this season. So, Neil, I'm going to come to you first. Which teams do you feel as though will be in and amongst that dogfight this season?
The dogfight. So we're talking about 17th and 18th place. Who's going to
Yes,
try to
so there'll be 3 teams that obviously finish there, but there'll obviously be probably 5 or 6 teams that will be, in and amongst that conversation, if you will.
So if we're talking dogfight, someone's fighting for their lives to stay up. By the looks of it, I'm looking at a table here, and it can go either way. But I'm expecting a dogfight between Forest and Ipswich.
And Ipswich.
I think Ipswich has quite a bit of heritage, a lot of bit of history. They have a nice bit of grit about them. I watched their first game. I like what I see. I think it's going to be a dogfight between Forest and Ipswich.
Okay. And when you say dogfight between those 2 clubs, are we talking for that sort of 18th spot?
It's going to be a duel for 17th to stay up.
And who else do you think will be sort of in those sort of bottom 2 places? Who do you think will be involved in the fight for relegation other than those 2 teams?
I would say Tottenham. I'm sorry. Had to get that. So I had to get that one in there. If I had to put money on it, I would say Fulham.
Okay.
And Southampton.
So you're going with Southampton, Forest, Ipswich, and Fulham are going to be all fighting out for those sort of. I say fighting out like they want to finish there in the bottom 3. Obviously, they don't. So those are the clubs. Any particular reason for why you think these clubs are going to be in that fight?
I mean, when you look at each of these teams play, they play good football. But is it Premier League standard football? Is the coach and is what the coach trying to implement on the field happening the way he would like it to happen? What he sees in his mind. And the challenge with these teams that's battling in these positions is that it takes a great deal to get into to be able to play as a player in the Premier League, regardless of what team. However, their standards, and I feel like they're players that can easily adapt to what the coach or the manager is trying to implement, and these teams, unfortunately, just may not be able to implement, and this is what ends up happening and why they end up being relegated. It's just a matter of implementation, a struggle from mind to the pitch.
Okay. Yeah, some interesting thoughts there. I think the one team in that bottom four that I will probably disagree with is Fulham. They've made some good signings this summer, and I think they'll certainly build on what they did last season. But those are your four that you think will be sort of in that dogfight. Albert, coming to you now. Same sort of questions, really. Who do you think's going to be involved in that relegation battle, and what are the reasons for the teams that you pick?
Yeah, it's only fair that I'll go with the predictions that I did before the start of the season. So I'm not going to try and cheat and sort of change it after 3 games in. But I was asked to do the predictions by my dear Sophie Nicolau from Hybrid Squad. So the bottom 3, I went for, obviously without a ball being kicked, so there's context. I went for Brighton, Ipswich and Southampton. The reason why I went for Brighton is because they fell off a cliff last season. That second part of the season with De Zerbi there.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure in terms of how Fabian Hurtzler was going to do. He seems to have really kind of warmed himself to the Premier League pretty quickly amongst the Arsenal fan base anyway. But listen, it's only 3 games in, so they started well, but it could easily turn. But yeah, Brighton was my pick, and that was the reason why. Ipswich, I was interested to see how Kieran McKenna would do. He's had an amazing couple of years back-to-back promotions with Ipswich. When he was linked with the Chelsea job, I said that can't happen. He should not go nowhere near that job. But so Ipswich and Southampton. Russell Martin again has done a fantastic job getting them into the Premier League, because I remember him speaking after he got Southampton up. And he said, look, I wasn't the most fancied person to take over the job. And I understand that, but he got them promoted. He's done a great job. So, Brighton, Ipswich and Southampton for me. And I think, just to quickly jump in, with, I know some people have said, I really fear for Everton. I've said this for about a good...
That was one of mine.
few years. They were dreadful when they played us 3 seasons ago at the Emirates. And they've got progressively worse under different managers.
Yeah, and they've started the season very poorly as well. They've got loads of injuries at the moment, which isn't going to help their cause. I suppose the one sort of additional question for you, Albert, you mentioned a moment ago, this was your prediction before a ball was kicked. Now that you have seen, some Premier League action, the transfer window is now closed, you've had an opportunity to sort of assess things. Would you change any of the teams that you've picked there?
The only one I'd possibly change is swap Everton and Brighton. I think Everton are really in trouble, man. I mean, they cannot afford to go to a new stadium. It looks good, by the way, from the pictures I've seen, and be playing Championship football. But and the way things are going, I'd be surprised if Sean Dyche makes Christmas.
Really?
Yeah. Do you think he might be one of the first managers to go this season?
It's a strong possibility, because Everton, I was counting this the other day. Managers, I went through it quickly, top of my head. So Martinez, Koeman, Ancelotti, Marco Silva, Frank Lampard. Wow. I think Rafa Benitez was there. And obviously, you've got Sean Dyche. Yeah, I mentioned, they've had a lot of managers, man. And it's not like to say they haven't spent money, because they have. You got Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who's obviously never stayed fit. You bought Beto last season, who obviously hasn't found his feet in English football. I'm on socials. I see some of the stuff that Everton fans post, and I saw the scenes when they was getting a train back from London after they got smashed by Tottenham. And that's going to be an evident theme for the season, because they do not like winning games of football.
No, they don't. And funnily enough, the three teams that we have in the bottom three now were my predicted three to go down. I suppose the only other question before we kind of move on to the next section of where teams will finish in the Premier League this season, whether or not it's Everton or some of the other clubs that we've talked about, who else do you think's going to be right on the coming back to you, Al, but right on the sort of tip of that kind of dogfight? We could argue that Wolves might be in amongst that sort of conversation, as well as, maybe Leicester as well. Do you see any other teams sort of scraping it until the last maybe few games of the season?
I mean, you saw that. Obviously, I didn't include Leicester in my bottom three. I think Steve Cooper going there is a big factor for me.
Okay,
I think he's a good manager and got some decent players at Leicester. Sorry, but I think Wolves could be in a spot above, and I like Gabriel. I think he's a manager to watch over the next sort of 4 or 5 years. Him and the likes of Rob Edwards. I know Rob Edwards is struggling at the moment at Luton. They're talking about him losing his job. Football changes quickly, but I fear for Wolves. They're not really just a big player. 2 big players in Max Kilman and Pedro Neto.
Yes.
They've not really bought anybody. They tried to obviously get Aaron Ramsdale, but yeah, I think they could be on the cusp. I think it's tricky. It's going to be tricky for them this season.
Neil, any other teams that you think might be involved? I know you mentioned Nottingham Forest, as well as Fulham, but do you think we're missing anyone there that might be involved until the latter stages of the season?
No, I think those 6 that I'm looking at on screen right now more or less rounds it out. I did see some, and this is no dig to Chelsea, but there's so much rumblings around that club about ownership and like shares and this type of stuff. And it's scary. It's scary for that type of club. It's scary for the fans. So like those type of instabilities in a club, it trickles down. It ends up on the pitch.
It does.
During games, you might see fans not really, engaged in the game itself, and those things again get onto the pitch, into the player's mind. So, I mean, I would put Chelsea in and around that area there, man. Even high mid table, between 8 and 12, because that's the kind of feeling I get when I just read news or hear news about Chelsea Football Club.
Yeah, it's a very kind of up and down roller coaster ride that seems to, well, there doesn't seem to be an end in sight for them just yet. And as an Arsenal fan and fans, it's one I'm sure we're all enjoying at the moment. long may it continue. So okay, so moving on to the next section, we're going to talk about European places. We're going to save the all important winners of the Premier League, top 2, that kind of thing, until the end. And I have seen there are some questions coming in the chat as well. We will get to them shortly, but I think the next area that I'm keen to get some opinions on in the chat and from the panel is sort of 5th, 6th and 7th, which is a really interesting number of positions, because we've got the traditional kind of top 6, if you will. And in recent years, we've had the likes of Aston Villa, for example, Brentford, Brighton, of all kind of in their own way broken into it a little bit into those sort of European places. So I'm going to come to you first, Albert, as I went to Neil first last time. Who do you think will be battling it out for those sort of European places, 5th, 6th and 7th? Who should we be putting into that conversation, and why?
Yeah, I didn't think I'd look down as far as 7th, to be honest, but I will. But I think you've got to look at sort of Newcastle, Tottenham, and probably it's a tough one because Chelsea finished the back end of last season well, but they obviously went and changed the manager and brought in some more players. So I think the only outside, if I was going to outside one, if they get it right, I know Julian Lopetegui is not everybody's cup of tea, but West Ham made some really good signings. If they get it right, they could push sort of European places as well. So Newcastle, Tottenham, and West Ham.
Okay. And is that more for sort of 7th or the sort of the 5, 6, and 7? Do you think?
No, 5, 6, and 7, man. I'd
5,
be
6,
surprised
and
if there's only one probably other team which I'll touch on a bit later that might do well. Whether that do well in terms of on the cusp of maybe European places, but they still might be a little bit too light.
Okay, and if I pushed you for an answer in terms of, because obviously there's a big difference between teams playing in Europa League and Europa Conference League. Who do you think will finish in 5th and 6th compared to 7th? Do you think from the teams that you've mentioned there?
Yeah, Newcastle, Tottenham.
Okay, Newcastle, Tottenham, and then West Ham
possibly
in the 7th position
as an outside. Yeah.
Why not? No, you are right. They have bought very, very well this season, and we are going to be talking about a sort of a bit more of a surprise package team later. They're certainly one that could be in that conversation. So, Neil, coming to you next, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Do you agree with Albert? Is there another one or two teams in there that you expect to be finishing maybe lower down in the league or maybe overachieving?
I would actually say that I would fast to see Newcastle finishing in 7th. As for Tottenham and West Ham, I don't see them finishing there. I actually see this is gonna sound crazy, but I actually see Aston Villa finishing 5th, and
okay.
I also see Tottenham finishing 6th.
Okay, and where would you put Newcastle and West Ham in this equation?
I'm sorry. Newcastle finishing 5th and Aston Villa finishing 7th. And yeah, there you go.
That's how you would have it.
Yeah. Newcastle 5th, Tottenham 6th, Newcastle and Aston Villa 7th. There you go.
And if I had to push you for an answer on, why, Newcastle are going to push into that sort of 5th place and why maybe Aston Villa are going to drop out of those Champions League places this season, what would your reasons be?
When you look at Aston Villa and their model and their coach, I just, as good as Unai Emery can be, I don't think he's that manager to consistently have a team competing in a European top spot, than that being Champions League. I feel like his style, it doesn't go over well with players, and it kind of, as we've seen before, turn the dressing room against them. So he might lose a couple players in the dressing room, and that may cause a little bit of a tear apart in terms of how he brings his information over to the players and what he wants to see on the pitch.
Absolutely. One other fear that I have for Villa, I don't know if this is an opinion shared with the panel, is they've obviously got European football this season, so they've got those extra games. I suppose a sort of a quick side question before we move on, Albert, what do you think in terms of those extra games? Obviously they've bought players this season, they've done fairly well in the transfer market. They've obviously lost a key player in Louise as well. Do you think that fixture congestion for someone like Aston Villa might play a part in them maybe finishing a little bit lower down in the table? And then, as Chippy Boy points out here in the chat as well, Newcastle don't have any European football this year, and they haven't really lost any key players.
Yeah, I have Villa in my top 4.
Okay.
Yeah, dude, I have them at 4th. I know people talk about them being in the Champions League, but they've bought well, and they've been one thing Emery had that he didn't get at Arsenal was that he got backed. So yeah, listen, I know the European thing is his competition, maybe not the Champions League, but maybe sort of the tier below that.
Okay,
but more games. Be interested to see how they do, actually, because obviously still got Watkins there, who's been brilliant for a couple of years.
Very good.
They've got the boy Rodgers, who was brilliant against us.
Yeah,
got Ramsdale, got some good got some good players, man. Anana's obviously gone there as well. So he bolstered their midfield.
Settled in very nicely.
Yeah. McGinn's obviously a seasoned pro there. They've got some good players. So, like I said, I know they're talking about them being in the Champions League, but it'll be a tough balancing act. It's not easy doing Champions League and then the Tuesday, Wednesday, sort of Saturday thing. Because Villa's not been in top flight European football for a very long time. So we'll see. And obviously, so Amadeus Johnson, John Duran there as well. So I do think that they are my picks to finish top 4. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because like you say as well, Unai Emery's a seasoned manager who's managed European squad, so he knows what to expect. It's not like a manager who's never qualified for European competition before and isn't used to those fixtures coming every sort of 3 or 4 days once you get into the sort of middle part of the season. So it definitely will be an interesting one to watch, to see how that might unfold. And I suppose that's probably a good segue into talking about top 4. We will speak about the champions separately. I'm going to come straight back to you, Albert, because you mentioned that Aston Villa are one of the clubs that you think will finish in the top 4. Anything beyond what you've already mentioned there as to why they might finish in the top 4, and who is the other club that you think might join them?
I know people mentioned Newcastle not having European football, which is a plausible argument, but I'd probably say from looking at the transfer stuff in the summer, I don't think their fans are sort of over infused by their transfer business. I know they had a long drawn out process of Mark Gay and not going. I can't believe that deal never got done. I think Palace wanted in excess of 70 million. I'm like, yeah, I thought 65 was a good offer personally, but even with a good tournament in the Euros. But I'm looking at the other sides really. I don't think Tottenham will get top 4, even with the signing of Solanke, who had a good season at Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Newcastle could possibly push it just because defensively they're very good. Eddie Howe has his side set up really, really well.
He does.
So they're a possibility, but actually it will come down purely to have Villa manage the European Premier League balance. To me, that's what it'll come down to, whether they get 4th or they don't.
Okay. Yeah, that's literally, and I can see a lot of people kind of sort of speaking about Villa in the chat, very kind of 50-50 split on whether or not they're going to manage those games well enough. And obviously there's an element of luck in there as well, not just for Villa, but for all teams in the Premier League around, injuries, keeping players fit, which always plays, a really, really big part. Who was the other team that you might think joins Villa in that top 4? Not speaking of first and second, but more sort of like 3rd and 4th. Who else do you think might join Villa?
I've got Liverpool as 3rd.
Okay.
I actually had the same top 3 as I did last season, which I got right. But I was interested to see how Arne Slot would do, really. But also, we can only go by the sort of the small sort of kind of, what can I put? What's the word I'm looking for? You can only go by the sample size. That's it. Of what we've seen so far. But yeah, they did look good, Liverpool, man. I've always thought top end of the pitch, even with Klopp, that they are killers. And that's how they win games of football. Defensively, be interesting to see how they do, actually. Obviously, Kwanzaa's a young defender, but he's done well. You've got Van Dijk still there. Konate's there. I think there was even rumours that he's interested in getting Ait-Nouri from Wolves, who's a brilliant fullback.
He's very good.
But yeah, I fancy Liverpool. I've had Liverpool as 3rd. Like I said, from what I've seen in the small sample size so far, they absolutely should have beat Manchester United by more. I thought they was very lucky. United to only lose 3-0. Should have been more. Salah looks the trim. He looks mean. Diego Jota, when he gets back to full form, full fitness or to the Jota that sort of first joined Liverpool and was at Wolves goal machine. Diaz is dangerous. So, like I said, top end of the pitch, and of course they've bought in Chiesa, which is, to me, is a smart bit of business for 12 million quid. I know he's had a couple of not great seasons in terms of injury, but if they can find the player they did that produced for Italy in the European Championships, then yeah, Liverpool's going to be dangerous, man. But yeah, I've got them for 3rd.
Yeah, they're definitely a team to watch, and I know there's been some sort of question marks over the opposition. that they've faced so far in the Premier League. And at the end of the day, you can only play the teams that are in front of you. And when you look at games against Manchester United at Old Trafford, I know that there are some people that say that United aren't great and they haven't really kind of followed on from last season. But in those types of fixtures, as we know, when we face Tottenham, form does go out the window to some extent. So, they've done very, very well to, let's be honest, batter United away from home. So, Neil, over to you next, really. Back to the predicted table. Do you disagree with Albert for third and fourth? Who did you have in your third and fourth spot and why?
Third and fourth is going to be very, very, very tricky this year. Albert made a very, very brilliant point. Liverpool does look very good. They look sharp. Salah looks like Salah, and we haven't even seen a Cody Gakpo in full flight yet, and we don't know if that's even going to happen this season. So I agree. Liverpool looks very dangerous. So I have Liverpool in third. As for fourth place, I have a feeling that Manchester United is going to kick into a gear.
Oh dear.
I have a feeling. We have a saying in Trinidad that Manchester United is a zombie club. If you don't know what a zombie is, it's a bad ghost. If you're from Jamaica, you call it a duppy. If you're into that kind of stuff. That club they have a way. For instance, look at what they did last season, and they still end up with silverware. So they have this way about them. So I never count them out. I hate the club. I don't like the club. Nothing about the club I enjoy. The only good thing, in my opinion, that ever come out of Manchester United was Dwight York. Outside of that, because he's my countryman. Outside of that, So I have Liverpool and Manchester United between third and fourth.
Okay, a quick sort of side question, I suppose, before we move on to other clubs and positions in the league, and it is to do with Manchester United. I'll come back to you first, Neil. Albert, I'll get your opinion on it in just a moment. Erik ten Hag obviously finished the season nearly losing his job, and it hasn't taken long at all, really, for him to start seeing that pressure already from whether it be fans, social media, news outlets, journalists, you name it. How long do you think, Neil, Erik ten Hag has to really prove the point? And the reason I wanted to ask you first is because you've got them down as potentially finishing in the top four.
So I think he may have into Christmas, into the new year. And I'll say this: he has a player that has not touched the pitch yet, and that's that midfielder that Manchester United brought in. We saw what happened. We saw what happened with Casemiro, and how they got split apart. Once this player comes in and he's implemented into that Manchester United squad, then I would have a more assessed value of Manchester United. I'm going strictly based off of not just counting them out and saying, "Oh, Manchester United is absolute shit." They have the possibility of doing actually well. Season just started, so But I just want to dial things back just a little bit, going back to Aston Villa. The reason why I said that about Aston Villa is that not only that they in European football, but they're in a new format of Champions League football. There are much more games. We don't know what that squad is capable of. Sure, Unai Emery, he's very familiar with the European platform, but the amount of games, that's a horse of a different color. So going back to Manchester United, man, I want to see that midfield. I want to see what it looks like, how it performs, and I think that there's a possibility of seeing them if not fourth, at least fifth, somewhere around there. But don't count them out.
Albert, same question to you, really. You know, how many bad results are United away from really sort of considering a change of manager, and how long do you see them leaving it for?
Not long, to be honest. I said this to when they played. I think I was talking to Doug, my Liverpool guy, man, saying to him, I know it's only sort of 2-3 games into the season, but they shouldn't. They was lucky to beat Fulham. Fulham should have got a point at Old Trafford. To be fair, United were a little bit unlucky against Brighton, but I'll be honest, I was happy to see them lose. And they got what they deserved the other day against Liverpool, and it should have been more. I don't see anything different from last season. I mean, it made me laugh when I saw some United, well, one particular United fan, it was doing videos talking about rival fans being salty about their signings. I'm like, hold on a minute. Like, I never heard of Euro. He's obviously a young defender. He's obviously got potential, but he's only 18, and now he's out for 3 months now. Anyway, in the pre-season, you bought a centre half in De Ligt who hasn't performed since he's been at Ajax. Let's be real, he hasn't. So I was kind of scratching my head thinking, what have rival fans got to be anxious about with United signings? I mean, at that point, you hadn't even bought Marawalzi. I can't pronounce
the wing back.
The right back. Okay, you bought him. So you've bought more defenders on top of the ones you've already got. They moved on Wan-Bissaka. Midfield wise, I'm looking at it. They sold McTominay for obvious reasons. I know why they sold him. Let's be honest. To balance the books. And they bought Emmanuel Ugarte. Kobe Mainoo is an excellent talent, by the way, but he can't do it on his own at the age that he is.
No.
I look at their midfield, and I'm not really sure. But so let's see if with the likes of Sean Dyche and Eric Ten Hag, if they make it up to Christmas beyond it, I'd be surprised if the form carries on the way it does now. But yeah, I think his job's in quite a bit of danger personally. There's always a manager around the corner waiting, man. Trust me.
Apparently, the manager is Tuchel, right? There's been conversations having.
Yeah, he's available.
Apparently, the rumor has it that there were conversations that took place prior to the FA Cup final with Tuchel, and he's still available. So,
watch his space.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, watch his space, man.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely one of the. I know that he's not under loads of pressure yet, but with Man United being who they are and with the way that things ended last season, things will change there very, very quickly if they need to. Okay, so there is one club that I do want to talk about before we have a conversation on who we think will be champions this year and why. And that is Chelsea, because we all know that Chelsea are a club that were in and amongst title fights. They've won Champions Leagues before now. Their new ownership is probably 2 or 3 shows on its own with the way that the club has been run. Albert, I'm going to come to you first very quickly. You know, what do you think of the transfer window that they've had, the start they've had to the season, and where do you think they might finish, really? Because it's a really interesting one, Chelsea, for me.
Yeah, in terms of where they finish, I've got absolutely no idea, because the scattergun approach to buying players, I've never seen anything like it in my lifetime of football.
Yeah,
people can talk about the Abramovich era, but I don't think this. I don't think this is the same. I'm not a Chelsea fan, but I'd have to speak to one. But I don't know what they're doing, JC. I'll be honest. I mean, they bought Pedro Neto, and that's a lot of money to buy for a player whose injury record is horrendous. The loan signing of, I'll touch on him a bit later when to one of your questions, but I don't understand the Jadon Sancho signing either. That completely baffles me. I know he's moved on Sterling, but you've got Madueke, I think he's brilliant, by the way. I think he's amazing. Very good. Talent. You've got obviously Nkunku, I don't know when he's going to get fit again. He's been injured more times than Brian Robson back in the 90s. It's just all over the place. I mean, they've got obviously Mudrik's there. They spent a lot of money on him. A lot of money.
Yep.
Have I missed anybody? Cole Palmer's been there, or Cole Palmer FC, whatever you want to call him. I just don't understand. I mean, Caicedo and Enzo, over £200 million on central midfield players. One's obviously, it'd be interesting how Enzo does this season. He's had his season in the Premier League. He may get better. I personally wasn't too bold over what I saw last season. Caicedo's not had that amount of time in the Premier League, but he's a good player. Going to Chelsea, I don't really know. Lavia, I'll probably play more times for Chelsea than he's played for Chelsea, to be honest with you. But again, an amazing talent for when he was obviously at City, and João Felix again. I don't understand what they're doing. And if you speak to most Chelsea fans, if they're really, really honest, there's one area of the pitch they haven't addressed, and I'm not even talking about the 7 goalkeepers they've got. They've, for all the money they spent, I really can't understand why you haven't bought a centre forward. And that's no disrespect to Nicholas Jackson, but he's not. Listen, he's got very raw. I mean, probably some of the rawest potential seen in the striker. But I don't know. I don't know where they're going to finish. If I'm going to be honest with you, I've actually got them down to win the Conference League because it's a cup competition. You never know what could happen.
Yeah, not a bad shout.
Yeah, so I don't know, JC, mate. I'll be honest. They could be fantastic this season. Who knows? He might work a miracle, Enzo Maresca, but you know he's probably how many managers they've had in the last 10 years. I've lost count, but I generally don't understand what they're doing. They're doing something right in terms of bending the rules, in terms of getting players on 7-year contracts, which is insane.
Yeah, they are.
So yeah, the short answer is, if you take one player at that side in terms of Cole Palmer, then I really don't know where they go, to be honest, as a football club.
No, you make some very, very good points. I'm going to ask you one more question about Chelsea before I get Neil's opinion. But before we do that, as Keith rightly mentions in the chat, if you haven't done so already, please do subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button if you are enjoying, as well as the notification bell, because there'll be plenty more shows like this among videos as well for you to sink your teeth into, alongside guests like Neil and Albert. But the question I wanted to ask you is very similar to the Manchester United one, before I get your opinion, Neil, is Chelsea like to chop and change their managers very quickly, like you mentioned. Poch finished the season strongly and still lost his job. How long do you think the Chelsea manager has before questions start getting asked? Not from the fans, because we know that it's not that sort of pressure, but how many bad results do you think Chelsea are away from, changing? Because that can only be sustained for so long.
Yeah, what they won? They lost? They won 1-1, drawn 1, lost 1 of day? I can't remember now.
Let's have a look now.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Lost 1, draw.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Maresca is a tough one, because I mean, even in recent years, what they've had, over 3-4 years, 4 managers? Tuchel, Potter, Lampard, twice, and now Enzo Maresca. I think when the job came available after Poch went, I think it was. I mean, at the time they talked about Kieran McKenna, I said, "There's no way that guy can go for that job. Absolutely no way in hell. Like, save your career. Don't even think about. Don't think about going to Chelsea. Young manager like that. No. But I think Maresca was probably, I thought, was the one we're going to get it, and he did get the job. He's obviously another guy that's worked under Pep. He's gone out on his own now, done a good job at Leicester, came up, obviously got the big job at Chelsea.
Yeah.
I don't know if people in the chat are going to find out what his actual contract was when he joined Chelsea. I'll be surprised if it's more than 2 years, to be honest, but it might be more. I'm not too sure, but it could really go either way. I mean, it depends what the expectation of the board is. Has he been told you've got to get top 4 without fail, or you're out of the job? So he's not going to be immune to any criticism or to be moved out the door. They've Chelsea have been that club for a number of years, so there's nothing's going to change that aspect. But from a personal point of view, I hope he doesn't do well because I want Chelsea to obviously bum and fail. But 4-year deal, I don't understand that. I generally can't understand that. But I understand it when you bring a new manager in, but I mean, the money you already paid off for Graham Potter, and I don't know what they're doing. I really can't understand it. But even the thing is, even if they got rid of him, guys, like Chelsea have had a lot of managers in the last 15, 20 years.
Yep.
I don't know who else you could. I don't know who else currently in world football or European football who they would bring into the club if this guy doesn't work out. If you tell me one manager, people in the chat, tell me one manager, if this doesn't work out for Enzo Maresca, who are they going to bring in?
It's a good question. It really is a good question because
you've had experience. You've had experience. You've had young, dynamic coaches, and you've bombed out all of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they get him.
No, it must be frustrating for Chelsea fans as well because they don't know what style of football they're playing. They don't know what the strategy is. And I know there is a Chelsea fan watching in the chat as well who was active earlier. I don't know if he's still there now, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to watch this season as it has been in previous seasons under the new ownership. Neil, what are your thoughts on the whole Chelsea scenario at the moment with regards to how long the manager's going to get and where they might finish and what they might achieve this season?
I feel for Chelsea. Why do I feel for Chelsea? Because we've been in a similar situation. Not like not in the expense, but they like good. I have a good friend who's a Chelsea fan, and he's been crying out for them to bring Tuchel back. He might just be the person to save the club. However, I am curious to see that expense bill on every time they fire a manager and bring in a new manager, because they don't ever allow a manager to see out their time. They have to pay them off when they sack them. So I'm just curious to see what that bill is looking like 120 mil. Like, come on, man. They need to stop. They need to learn from these past mistakes. And I don't know, bro. I would love to see Chelsea actually get relegated. That would be such a statement. I would love to see that. And if you guys want to see Chelsea get relegated, put it in the chat. Start liking this stream. A thumbs up for seeing Chelsea get relegated. But I don't know, bro. I don't know what to make of it. They're just buying players. They need to stop buying. That's the first thing they need to stop. They need to do. Stop buying players.
Stop buying.
Stop buying players. Use what you have. Get the best out of it, and focus on selling players. That's what they need to focus on. Get rid of the players that you like. That they're 10 players short of an NFL roster. Did you all know that?
Bloody hell!
That's insane.
Mental.
That is a lot of players. That is too many players.
The other problem they have as well, and we're all aware of it, is that they're bringing in so many players every season, and then they change the manager, and the new manager doesn't like players that were brought in the previous season, hence the whole Sterling situation, and they're just wasting money over and over and over again. And I read somewhere the other day that Arsenal are paying less than 50% of Sterling's wages, and we're not paying a loan fee. So they're effectively paying Sterling around £10 million this season to play for Arsenal, which is absolutely insane when you think about it. So, yeah, I think we're probably all in agreement with regards to Chelsea as to where they finish and what they achieve this season really is anybody's.
You have to rename Chelsea Football Club. You have to rename Chelsea Football Club to that.
Enough about Chelsea and Man United. It's nice to see them doing well. Let's talk about champions of the Premier League. And I think it's obvious to see from the way that we've all been talking that we all think that it is going to be, again, between Arsenal and Manchester City. And and I really do want to kind of know the reasons behind why you think one will be champion and the other will finish second. Coming to you first, Neil. First question, who's finishing first? Who's finishing second? And then the second part to that, I want to know why for each team.
Jesus Christ. Jake, that it's so hard to tell right now. And it's hurting me to want to say it. But I just feel like Arsenal did not do enough to secure a title. We still have one more window in January. We'll see. But I don't know. I feel like we don't have enough firepower to see us over the line to get us to win that champion spot. So I'm going to say City's going to take it again.
And is that specifically down to the window that Arsenal have had?
Yes, and also to add to that, it would be because City have the roster, they have a bench, they have a solid striker up top, they have the players, they have the manager, they have the know-how. They've done this before. So, again, it's hurting me to say this, but it feels like City will have that edge over Arsenal.
Okay, and you mentioned that part of the reason that you think City will win the league is down to the window that Arsenal have had. So, in your opinion, what did you want to see? What would have been the type of window that Arsenal will have needed to have had in order for you to be confident that Arsenal will have won the league this season? What would you have needed to have seen over the summer?
It would have been the window that they had, who they brought in, who we have currently in the squad, and with not that he was this is not a knock on Eddie, not that he was a massive favorite at the club. I don't know, but when we saw him being sold, I was saying to myself, surely no, surely we're bringing in that striker, we're bringing in that person up top. And I don't want to say this decision is based off of my disappointment. There is a lot of disappointment in not seeing someone come in. But when you see Victor Osimhen going off to the league in Saudi Arabia, or we had links to Gorenkes from that team in Portugal, and none of it coming out and materializing, it's like where's that extra goal going to come from? Should we need it?
And is that what you think it's going to come down to? Is Arsenal bringing in potentially an elite forward?
Yeah. It's what hurt us in the last 2 seasons. We couldn't find that extra goal to pull a win. So and we're going again into another season with the same set of attacking players. So there's nothing that's changed to change my opinion on that. So yeah.
Okay. No, absolutely fine. There are a lot. It is very split this season in terms of fans who think we will and won't win the league. So over to you, Albert. Really, what are your thoughts on the whole situation with regards to league winners this season and why?
Yeah, I've gone for City to win and Arsenal to finish second. It doesn't. Does it pay me to say? I want us to win a league title, so obviously it's going to pay me to say it. But, I don't think Arsenal. I'm talking about Arsenal firstly before I sort of even talk about City. But I don't think we've done enough in the window.
Okay.
I think that's been the case with a lot of Arsenal transfer windows over quite a number of years. To be honest with you, when we've addressed certain areas, we don't address other areas. I think, and I've been saying it for a few years now, that Arsenal, I wasn't sure whether Arsenal were actually looking at a striker, but I've been saying it. People know it's no secret who I've wanted Arsenal to go for in terms of a front player, and that was Victor Gyökeres. Said it since December last year. The release clause They knew what it was. Most clubs knew what it was.
He started the season really strongly as well.
Yeah, exactly. Goal and assist machine, movement. Not too many all-round strikers that I've seen in Europe as good as him, or on current form, shall I say. So he's a guy that I wanted. I think he'd have been perfect for Arsenal. Some people wanted Isak at different points. Some people wanted Ivan Toney at different points.
Yeah.
But I think it got pretty obvious to me during the window that Arsenal weren't going to buy a striker. But Arsenal clearly did want one because they went for Benjamin Sesko.
Yeah.
My only slight issue with Benjamin Sesko was that from what I've seen, he does have some very, very good attributes. My exact words were, I think he needs a couple more years of seasoning, seasoning, whatever season you want to call it. I wasn't too bold over what I saw in the Euros, but what I would say to that, to counteract that, is maybe he plays for a better club side than he does for his nationals team, with the greatest of respect. He might have better players around him. So Arsenal did want a striker. Let's make no bones about it. They just weren't obviously prepared to pay the type of money that was required for them, i.e. Gyökeres. And this might surprise people, and it shouldn't really surprise people if they've watched my content and listened to me, but I have never, ever been sold on the Victor Osimhen links.
Same.
Never. And I'm a fellow Nigerian, by the way, so if anybody's going to back it, it's going to be me.
Absolutely.
I just have never really been. Yes, he's had a couple of very good seasons at Napoli. Money talks in football with some players, to be honest with you. So there was obviously a possibility he would go to the Saudi league, but he's ended up going to Galatasaray. I don't know. I didn't see that coming. I've got to be honest.
No,
but,
neither did I.
So I wasn't really ever really that sold on Victor Osimhen. That might surprise some people, but Isak, I could understand it with the type of player he is.
Same.
Can play centrally and play off the left. But for me, it got to a point where it looked like Arsenal weren't going to buy a striker. So for my thing was, okay, damage limitation, or actually not damage limitation, improve the area that you need to improve, a wide forward. I said on Tom Canton's show, Wild Card, about 5 weeks ago. I've said it before, I like Brian Mbeumo at Brentford, but I don't know what his contract situation was. I know some people liked Bakayoko, but I think I wasn't sure going into the window what Arsenal would do, if we're going to be really, really honest. But it's not what I expected. I'm very happy with the Calafiori signing.
Same.
The Merino signing, I'm happy with. I just still don't understand why it still takes Arsenal long to get deals done, particularly with players that want to come to the club. But I just don't think Arsenal have done enough. And Neil made a point, and I've made this point last week on the old TNT with Potsy, and I said it on my channel as well. It's not that Arsenal won't score goals, because they will. Havertz will score goals. Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli needs to come a bit better this season. But it's the clutch moments. I go back to the game in North London Derby at the Emirates. 1-0 up, Jesus has the big chance to go 2-0 and misses it. Away at the Etihad, for me, a better striker in that position gets ahead of Akanji, puts us 1-0 up. That's what we're talking about as Arsenal fans. Every Arsenal fan should be universal with that. So that's why you get the grumbles you do with the window just gone. I see Chief put penny pinching. It's weird because just to finish up, or to talk about City a little bit, whatever time we got, with the penny pinching comment, it is a fair point, and I'm going to say that, and I'm going to agree with that, because as I like to say on 21 plus VAT, and this has been systemic with Arsenal, by the way, under different managers, where we take so long, and the most infamous one, depending on your age, is when Gary Cahill was linked with Arsenal. That I've never seen Arsenal handle, maybe the Suarez deal, nothing worse than what I've seen with that deal.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
That he was a very good centre half at Bolton who plied his trade, done very, very well. We was linked with him for such a long time. They mess around with the bids. I mean, the Bolton chairman at the time, rest in peace, Phil Gartside, I think his exact words were, it was a derisory bid. And if a selling club is talking about a buying club like that, we're not going to get him. and he ended up going to Chelsea for 8 million and wins the Champions League and the FA Cup in the first 5 months. So with Arsenal, it's a systemic thing, by the way, in terms of the transfers. It taking long to get done. And I mean, obviously, we saw the news with Mikel Arteta. I still couldn't believe it at the time when it came from my phone. I couldn't believe it. But I don't think we've done enough because you've got to look at it from, we talk about City strength coming off the bench. If Trossard starts the game, who's going to be our game changer coming off the bench? And that's the thing. And touching on City quickly before I finish up. Listen, they've got a goal machine in Haaland. You're gonna touch on a particular question a bit later, which I will fill in the gaps with a certain person. But I mean, so Haaland, what's that? 23 career hat tricks, back-to-back hat tricks.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Grealish will be chomping at the bit this season.
Yep.
And you know what I mean, you don't win 6 out of 7, 7 out of 8 out of Premier Leagues for no reason. Good point. I'm looking forward to seeing it and where he play. I think him and Lewis Skelly might get a bit more. Will get some game time this season. Got a lot of football this season.
They'll definitely get minutes, those two.
So yeah, it was Arsenal. I don't think they've done enough.
Yeah, we do seem thin in some areas. I don't remember an Arsenal side with so many defenders either. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But it's good quality and depth at the back as well. But yeah, I think we might be one more transfer window away from winning.
JC, quickly, I would say the one positive which might give Arsenal a chance is defensively. For 2 years we've been excellent, and we've added to that. But I just feel it's the clutch moments in games where it's a 0-0, we need to get the win, or we're 2-1 down, we nick the point. Because Havertz gets a lot of chances, by the way, for Germany and Arsenal. Again, clutch moments, you know, the chance to go through, make it 2-1 against Brighton. That's what Arsenal fans are talking about.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And we saw that against Brighton, like you said, you know, in that second half. When we went down to 10 men, you know, there were chances in that game where we could have gone 2-3-1 up. And unfortunately, the prolific striker that you want in those moments, you know, if Haaland is in that same position,
it's a goal.
99 times out of 100, yes, it's a goal. And that, like you say, could well be the difference this season. So, we shall wait and see. It does seem as though a lot of people do think City will again win the league this year. I suppose one very quick question to finish off on the club side of things. Neil, I'll come to you first. There's always a surprise package or a team that overachieves and surprises us all each season. Who's caught your eye in these early stages? Or maybe it might have even been a transfer window that's caught your eye to think they're going to go on and maybe do a little better than I first thought?
Liverpool.
Why?
Liverpool Football Club. It's not that they had a fantastic transfer window. It's that they have a manager who assesses players, and he has come in and he has so far been able. I can see what Liverpool is already trying to do.
Yeah,
as a team, as a unit, and what they. It's like it's not that he's picking up where Klopp left off, but it's kind of like that. Like, you see the attack, you see the flow of the football, you see the passing and how intricate and how he's using Trent in the midfield. Like, you see it.
Mm-hmm.
And that stood out to me when I saw it. I was like, okay, Liverpool looks serious, and we cannot take them for granted, you know. So I have to say it's Liverpool.
Yeah, no, it's a good shout. I think a lot of people thought that Liverpool might need a season or two to have that kind of transition period going from Klopp to a new manager. And I think where things will really tell is maybe next season, when the likes of Van Dijk, Salah, maybe even Alisson look to move on with their contract situations and how they go about replacing such influential elite players in the squad. But yeah, we shouldn't be taking Liverpool lightly at all, given the start that they've had this season.
I think they're actually even a good shout to challenge for second. I'd go as far as that. That's how I see Liverpool right now. So we have to be very, very wary. Like, you can't take it for granted at all.
No, I completely agree. Definitely going to be a team to keep an eye on. And there's some great shouts coming in from the chat as well, with the likes of West Ham, as we touched upon already. They've had a really good transfer window. Bournemouth, who had a really strong second half of the season last year, and they've got a fantastic coach. Albert, who is your surprise package for the season?
Stuff like is that too. Bournemouth, to be fair, there's a good shout, because they was I think form guide for 2024, they was 5th in the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely insane.
Considering they lost the first, I think they didn't win the first. When they gave out the first 9, I think it was with Areola. But as an outside chance, I'm gonna go for Fulham. I think they made some very clever signings this season.
They have.
ESR, Emil Smith-Rowe, Reece Nelson on loan. I think Sanderberg is a fantastic purchase for them. They're great bit of business to get him in. He's a very good player. A few years ago, he's mentioned with quite a few top clubs in the Premier League. And I'm surprised he left Palace. I don't know what's gone on there, but they've obviously signed Joachim Andersen at centre half, who's a very good defender, by the way. So they made some good, very, very smart signings for them. So they could be a shout to do well. But yeah, I was really surprised. I don't know what his contract situation was at Palace, but I'm really surprised he's gone from there, because I thought he was. Yeah. I thought they'd have try and kept him. You know, him in that partnership with him and Mark Gay was excellent. So
Fulham lost both in the same window.
It's between Fulham and Bournemouth, but yeah, I'm going to go for Fulham.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very good shout. You make a great point as well with the signings that they've made. And it seems as though we're all probably going to go for a different team, because mine was West Ham, because of the transfer window they've had and the new manager coming in, looking to really kind of change things up from what Moyes had done there. You know, he brought them a European trophy at the end of the day. So it's going to be a tough act to follow, but he seems to have started well, and he seems to have brought in some really, really good players. But, you know, great shouts from all of us, really. We're going to move on to the final segment of the show. I don't want to keep everyone too long, because I know we've already hit an hour, so we'll try and get through the next bit pretty quickly. If you have enjoyed so far, do hit the like button, subscribe if you're new around here. We'll try and knock the next 3 questions over in one. Albert, I'm going to come to you first. They're the generic questions that people get asked every season. Who's going to be top goal scorer? Who's going to be top assists? And who do you think will have the most clean sheets, whether that be goalkeeper or club, however you want to kind of position that last one?
Yeah, top goal scorer is going to be Eddie Nketiah. No, I'm joking. No, it's going to be... Could you imagine?
Oh, mate.
The Arsenal
fan base.
The Arsenal fans have to go to therapy, man. But that's not going to happen. Listen. He's gone to Palace, but I hope he does well. Look, Glasner's done a good job since he's gone there at Palace. But yeah, top goal scorer is Haaland. You can't ignore that, man.
No.
But I wouldn't rule out Mo Salah, but yeah, Haaland definitely. Clean sheets, Arsenal, and assists, Bukayo Saka.
Yeah, I can't argue with any of those, to be honest with you. Like you said earlier, Arsenal's defence the last 2 seasons has been unreal. And if anything, we've only gone on to strengthen it even more with the likes of Calafiori and the return of Timber. So it's hard to argue that. And yeah, you can't really ever look past Haaland, given what he's done. Neil, what are your thoughts on those 3 questions?
I agree with Albert. Haaland for most goals scored. Assists would be Saka, and clean sheets would be Arsenal.
Yeah, it's difficult to argue, and even some of the other names that were mentioned, like, you know, Salah or Palmer, in and amongst it for assists. I think outside of Haaland, just very quickly before we move on to the last 2 questions, if there was to be someone other than Haaland, who do you think it might be?
Yeah, it's got to be Salah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, his goals record at Liverpool's phenomenal.
It is ridiculous. Do you agree with that?
I don't know. I feel like Super Kai Havertz, bro. 60 million down the drain. You never know, bro. You never know.
I hope you're right.
Look, I'll be happy if he just gets us 20+ league goals, man.
Yeah.
Listen,
same.
Sterling comes in and all of a sudden we have a version of Haaland in the likes of Kai Havertz. You never know. One can hope.
Okay. Well, look, the next two questions, which we'll wrap things up relatively quickly on, were probably two of the questions I was looking forward to the most. Actually, probably the last one is the most I'm looking forward to. But first of last two questions is Neil. I'll come to you first. Which new signing for any club, doesn't have to be Arsenal, any club, which new signing are you looking forward to seeing the most, or do you feel will have the biggest impact? Who do you think it will be and why?
Not that I'm not aware of all the other signs that took place, but I'm really eager to see how Arteta uses Sterling. I want to see that. I want to see what this relationship and this love and affection that they have for each other. I want to see it play out on the pitch. So I'm eager to see that.
Okay. Albert? What's your choice?
For me, it's actually quite an easy one. I thought City re-signing Ilkay Gundogan.
That was the same I went for.
Yeah, you think about you got to, listen, he's not over the hill. He can get goals. He knows his defensive responsibilities. I don't really care how it went at Barcelona. People have their opinions, but listen, he's done his business over here in England for a long, long time.
Yeah,
and to bring him back to an already strengthened City side, I think it's the best bit of business in the transfer window.
Yeah, it's really hard to look past it, to be honest with you. I know there were some other mentions in the chat, like Emil Smith-Rowe, for example. I think if he can stay fit, be in for a shout, maybe. Not that I'm being biased as a former Arsenal player, but there's some very good business that's happened this summer. I think the fella, is it Minter for Brighton? He looks a good player as well. I think he's another one to keep an eye on. Any other boys that you guys can think of that will be worth keeping an eye on this
Eddie
season?
Eddie at Palace, bro. I want to see what he does with constant game time, and you have a number 10 in Eze giving you the ball. I want to see him knock in 15, 16, 17 goals this season.
Yeah, I think Max Kilman, West Ham signing Kilman, is a really good signing, man. Really good signing.
Yeah, it's difficult to look past some of these. They're very, very good bits of business. And then, like I say, probably my favourite question for the evening. I would love to hear why you think a certain player might be the biggest flop, whether it be a name, whether it be the amount of money that a club has spent. Albert, come to you first. Who do you think might be the biggest flop this season, new signing wise?
I just see I just got something caught my eye. Scotland beat Portugal. Incredible.
Oh wow!
What? I think so, yeah.
Oh, can they hold on?
As well, actually, you know what? Double check that because that's a 10. That's a 10. They might have lost. Sorry, that was an update. But at least they scored though, didn't they? Bloody hell.
Yeah.
But, yes, flop. I hate the word flop, but I'll say it. What's his name? I can't see how the Sancho one's going to work at Chelsea. I genuinely don't understand that move. I don't get it. So yeah, for me, Sancho at Chelsea.
Neil?
João Felix? He didn't work out at Chelsea the first time around. Why would he work out the second time around?
Yeah, a lot of people going for Chelsea players, to be fair. And you can
does the area or district that is Chelsea? I'm not sure if it's a town or city. Does it have its own airport? Because I think Chelsea Football Club is so many wingers, bro. They have so many wingers. They're trying to turn it into an airport.
Yeah, the Chelsea one is always interesting, as we touched on earlier, with regards to the number of players, the amount of money they've spent on those players. But the one that I thought would be a flop this season would be De Ligt. at Manchester United. That's who I went for.
Really?
Just touching upon some of what we mentioned earlier on, it hasn't worked out for him really since he left Ajax, and he was effectively displaced by Eric Dyer in the Bayern Munich side last season, which says it all really. And he couldn't get in the Spurs team before he left, so that was mine. Any other names to shout out before we wrap things up this evening, lads?
Big up to Chippy Boy and Mark Green. Thank you for clearing that up for me. It's Chelsea's in Fulham. Okay, there's no airport. All right. It's actually 2-1 to Portugal.
2-1. Yeah, I
Full
see
time.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Scotland, dear oh dear.
Cristiano Ronaldo with another international
Again.
goal to add to his.
Over 900.
Yeah.
His career goal. Yeah.
Crazy numbers. But I do think that is going to about wrap things up for this evening's show. I do really appreciate everyone popping along in the chat with their questions, with their answers. It's been absolutely bouncing in the chat this evening. So yeah, really do appreciate it. And I even appreciate more the fact that Neil and Albert have joined me this evening. Neil, I know you're not doing the whole YouTube thing at the moment. Albert, I know you are, so you're more than welcome to share your details with everyone. I'm assuming most people will
plug it
know who you are already anyway.
Well, yes, some might do. So yeah, possibly. But yes, people, Albert JTV, as you know, if you don't know, then you definitely know now. What's coming up? Because you asked me earlier. So yeah, international break, innit? So I actually don't mind the break. The people, I know Arsenal fans have heart palpitations about missing Arsenal, but I'm like, listen, we are gonna come back. The club's not folding, for God's sake. Goodness me. But yeah, listen, international break. Obviously, got the big game against Spurs coming up, so probably be doing a watch along. There might be a slivering that I could possibly get a ticket. It's not definite, of course, but we'll see. But yeah, watch along, and hopefully an episode of Live Stories will come up soon. I haven't got the guest, but it just depends on availability. That's the biggest thing to do that kind of show, man. Like otherwise I can't do it. Otherwise, literally, I can't. Yeah, Albert JTV, come and follow me, people. And it's not my Twitter handle there, but you'll find me if you know Twitter very well, or Instagram.
Brilliant. Yeah, make sure you go and check Albert out if you don't already know of his content. Very good. Constantly on all of the very well-known and big channels as well. And I think you might have even mentioned that you were on TNT recently, so making those big moves.
It was a little story, because obviously I did put out on the socials that I didn't have a phone I didn't have my main phone for a week. So I wasn't easy to get hold of, but I got a message from Potsy on Facebook. I thought it's got to be serious, because you don't DM me on Facebook. That's not normal.
No.
But, he said, they want another fan to come on. Do you want to come on? I said, of course, I'm flipping come on. Get to meet Cratchy and Keown and Jules Breach. Oh man, love her. But yeah, brilliant. It's amazing to do it. Weather actually didn't rain, which is a good thing. Yeah, do you know what? And it's I think people when you do live TV, yeah, it's it can be quite. I don't know if daunting's the right word. I guess the best way I can describe it is when people said to me, "How did it feel going on to Sky Sports News?" I said, "Well, it's kind of like your channel's your job interview. No, your channel's your prep.
Yeah,
and your job interviews going on doing the TNT or the job, and that's the best way I could describe it. But yeah, it was amazing, man. It made me feel very welcome, and hopefully, what I said came out with a little bit of sense. So that's the main thing, really.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully it's the first of many more appearances on some of these channels as well. And like Mark said, Albert's not hard to find. So go check him out if you're not already aware of his content, as I said. But for this show, as I say, that's going to wrap everything up. Thank you very much, Albert. Thank you very much, Neil. And thank you very much to everyone that has participated in the chat, even if you haven't said anything and you've just watched. Much appreciated. But for now, that's going to wrap things up. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you in the next one. Take care and stay safe.